Reading from our family business, the great art of distributing should. So this chapter here says book distribution is our family business, chapter 8. November the 15th, 1971, Prabhupada wrote to his disciple Dasa, if you simply push on this one activity of distributing my books, you will have success will be there. One activity or success. Srila Prabhupada went on to say that he had personally hatched this idea that the mass distribution of his books was his transcendental plot to uplift human society. What exactly did he mean by transcendental plot? He meant that simply by distributing his books, there would not only be all success, but book distribution would bring in enough money to finance the expansion of Krishna movement. You simply push on this one activity of distributing my books, all success will be there. I've hatched this transcendental plot for getting money by selling my books, and if we stick only to this and use our brain for selling books, there will easily be sufficient. Prabhupada was not a pound shillings pence man, as the term goes. It wasn't that he was at that age in his life, he was looking to create this millions of money. Obviously, if you consider the context of Prabhupada's wisdom, it wouldn't make sense for such an old person to be interested in making lots of money. But the purpose of distributing the books was to distribute the transcendental knowledge, and with the money taken from that, then we can expand the Krishna conscious movement. In the same letter, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he has already informed the GBC about his plan to have this strong support and expand itself through the sale of his books. And he offers Lilita Kumar a formula for how to make book distribution work to his temple's advantage. He wanted his disciples to fulfill his transcendental plot, and he didn't want them to worry about money. If Krishna sees that we are very active to spread information about him, he's master of the gods of fortune, he will give everything. So there's a saying that Lakshmi is never without Vishnu. So whereas Vishnu, then Lakshmi comes. So we find that if we just focus on the book distribution, Lakshmi will come automatically. If we're worrying about the money too much, then it will be hard to get the money or give the books. So we just focus on giving out the Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will direct people, and Krishna will direct us. Prabhupada's transcendental book distribution. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavan Narado Rama Shomava Tibir Ratibir Jabir Bhagavat Uttabyam Sankhyagan Bhagavat Anubhavo Pavarnanam Savarnir Vipadikshaman Ramabhati Bhavano Pasavati Idam Chabigrinati Narayana Bhagavan, the most powerful person. The great said Narad, Brahma Ashrama Vativi, my followers of the institution of the four Brahmas and four Ashrams. Bharativi, of the land known as part of Russia, India. Punjabi, the are the inhabitants. Bhagavatam, which was stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sankhya, by the Sankhya Yoga system. The analytical study of material conditions. Yogabhyam, by practice of the yoga system, Bhagavad Anubhava Ita, Varnanam, which describes the process of God realization. Savarme, to Savarmi Muni, Pradikshamana, instructing, Paramabhakti Bhavena, in greatly ecstatic, loving service to the Lord. Prasarati serves the Lord. Idam, this chant, and Amigrinati chants. Translation. Narrative is very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. It is also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Presence of Godhead. The great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental exchange to Savarni Muni in order to teach those inhabitants of Varsh who strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Varsh, always engages in the service of Nagarayana and he chants as follows. He should read in his own book, Ada Pancharatra. Bhagavan Narad has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He has also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the great sage Narada instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Savarni Muni in order to teach those inhabitants of Varsh follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma, how to achieve the devotion service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Varsh, always engages in the service of Nagarayana and he chants. Krishna Mahaprabhu has clearly described Bharata Bhumti Haula Nucha Janmaja and Matsartaka Kari Kara Upaka. The real success of or fulfillment of the mission of human life can be achieved in India, because in Varsh the purpose of life and the method for achieving success are evident. People should take advantage of the opportunity afforded by Varsh, and this is especially so for those who are following the principles of Dharma. If we do not take to the principles of Varnashram Dharma by accepting the four social orders, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and the four orders of spiritual life, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, there can be no question of success in life. Unfortunately, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, everything is now being lost. Inhabitants of Varsh are gradually becoming degraded from the lectures and the avenues. How then will they teach others? Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement has been started not only for the inhabitants of Varsh, but for all the people of the world, as announced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is still time, and if the inhabitants of Varsh take this movement of Krishna consciousness seriously, the entire world will be saved from gliding down to a hellish condition. The consciousness movement follows the process of Pancharatrika Vidhi and that of Bhagavatam Vidhi simultaneously, so that people can take advantage of the movement and make them successful. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama. His own big Narada Pancharaksha Bhagavan Narada has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic system. He has also described the roots of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narada constructed the tenets of this transcendent knowledge of Srimad in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharat who strictly follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharat, always engaged in the service of Narayana and teachings as follows. Verse here, Prabhupada quotes in the beginning of the purport, Bharata Bhumiti Harila Manusha Janmajar Janma Sapakatari Kara Harakudar. Basically it's saying that it is the duty of everyone born in Bharata, India, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that one should go to India, live there, and basically live a holy life. But that may have been the case at one time. But because the inhabitants of India are following the Western ways, then they are becoming also milechas and yavanas. Can anyone tell me what a milecha is? But specifically, what's a yavana? Yeah, so there's various types of non-Vedic tribes. But then, so Prabhupada, his idea was we're going to take this Krishna conscious movement to the West, and when the people of India see that the Westerners are taking to it, they will also follow, and it's coming to pass. It's not that simply by going to India we're guaranteed to have a more life. To go there to visit the holy places of pastimes is good for developing our faith. More valuable than that is actually to follow the orders of what you can. Paratupakar. Can you tell me what Paratupakar means? Paratupakar means. So kara means to do something. Like sometimes you see this JJ Karo. Sometimes when our Indian friends bring their kids to the temple and they say JJ Karo, you go like that, it means do JJ. So they teach the kids how to do JJ when they come to the temple, which means Jai Jai. JJ Karo. And Jaldi Kari, that means quickly come. So Karo, Kari, this means to do something. Upakar. Upa means like upper. Means to do the highest. What is the highest thing that one can do? Para Upakar, what's the supreme highest one can do is to give Krishna consciousness. So there's many things we can do in life. We could get a job, we could make money, we could do so many things, we could be also hanging about. Any responsibility. Everyone tries to enjoy in some way or another. Some think they're being very responsible enjoyers, and others they want to be part of the system. The system which is just everyone follows my path in all respects, Krishna says, because all we have is what we're going to allow ourselves to fall into. So it's not that we can just reject Krishna, have nothing to do with him, then Krishna will fade away and die. You wouldn't think like that if Vishnu is being maintained by the sacrifices of the Brahmins, then let's stop the sacrifices and Vishnu will die. This is what they think. This is why they try to stop the sacrifices. You read in the Krishna book, Mahabharata or Ramayana, that demons would come and contaminate the sacrificial arena by passing urine and stool and contaminate the whole situation, simply to spoil it, because they know how much effort is put into the intricate setting up of such yajnas, so they would do like that. But then what would happen is the saintly persons would just immediately start again, and they would become very frustrated, and then they pray to the Lord. So we're also trying to do a yajna, and sometimes demons try to frustrate it because they're envious. Nothing but. They might sound reasonable according to their estimation, etc., but ultimately, now if chanting the holy name of the Lord is going to bring about peace in society, then how can devotees who are chanting the holy name be arrested for disturbing the peace? Isn't it? It happened. I remember we got arrested in Glasgow, and it's happened a few times. We were put in the cell, and then we were told, "He will let you out as long as you come back to the court tomorrow morning." Okay, so we came back, and the judge says, "What's this? Harry Krishna's in for disturbing the peace." He says, "Don't waste my time. Get them out of here." Who brought this to my attention? So this was some judge who had a bit of good grace to realise, the votes are not disturbing the peace. There was another occasion also we were doing Harinam in Glasgow, and some egotistic. The police there are actually they're now very supportive, protecting the devotees, but it used to be, I guess, because it was quite strange to them to see people with bald heads and bed sheets jumping about, singing things that they didn't understand, and making a whole clatter of noise. And they just think, oh, it's just some LSD casualties or something like that. This was the kind of attitude they thought, just some madmen, and they should be locked up. So they decided, stop it and go away, or else we're going to lock you up. Sorry, my dear police officer, we cannot stop. We are performing this mission here of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is Kara Parupaka, we're doing the highest welfare work. Okay, well, you can do it inside Stuart Street Stells then. So they put us in the vans, and as they put us in the vans, the residents of Glasgow were banging on the vans, telling the police, let them out, we'll stop some real criminals. So this was actually a small example of how sometimes an adverse thing brings out the good in people. You see that people want the devotees to be there on the street. They like it. It brightens up their day. When they hear the devotees chanting, when they see them giving out books or giving out prasadam, just to see them there, it gives them some hope. It's a way of light into their life. And many of them would be thinking, I wish that could be me. And why do we know that? Because I was thinking of that personally. And also, I know other people who thought like that. Some have become devotees, and still some are sitting on the back bench, but their desire is to become a devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that even if one is unable to take to this path, if one is favourable towards the path and towards those who are following that path, ultimately they too will achieve the same destination. So it's just because they have an interest, and Krishna will make the necessary arrangements for them by small increments to come to the point where they can actually come and directly surrender to Krishna. So therefore we don't know what arrangements Krishna has made to bring us to this point. Therefore it must have been many, many arrangements. It could have been over many lifetimes. All it takes is for the living entity to stop and wonder, what am I doing here? What is this life all about? Is this eating, sleeping, mating, defending? Is this all it's all about? This repeated birth and death. When the jiva is leaving his body in its bewildered state, it's thinking, why I have to undergo this repeated birth and death? Is there a way out? So Srila Prabhupada is kindly letting the way out to everyone in these books. A very famous lecture Srila Prabhupada gives, he's speaking about the glories of the Bhagavatam. He says, this transcendental literature, there is no comparison, there's no competition. Now he never spoke ill against anyone else's faith, etc. At the same time, and there's no comparison, there's no competition, there's no other literature which can tell you more about God than what is being mentioned in the Bhagavatam. There's no other literature which is Krishna directly, God himself speaking directly, describing who he is. How it resolves in him, and everyone is part and parcel of him. Knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Understanding the Lord's mind as in Chaitanya. So sometimes people, they're too busy searching to read Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes people, they ask a question. There's two reasons to ask a question. One is because you want to find something out, and the other one is because you want to deny it. And you can very easily tell, by the attitude if someone asks a question, then therefore we should be careful to get involved in time wasting if people's asking questions. With the latter mode, which is to deny something or to disprove it, unless we're very strong, then what we do is we just try to encourage them to read the book. Because in the book, there's so much knowledge there, which will dispel people's doubts. And more than that, even doubts they didn't know they had, that will uncover them and dispel them too. Sometimes our doubts, our ignorance is so deep, we don't even realize how deep it is. It can take a whole lifetime of even endeavour to uncover these doubts, what to speak of those who are not endeavouring. But fortunately for them, they get a lot of prasadam in the form of a lollipop or something like that. And they give a donation, and we use this donation in Krishna service. And they get a transcendental book. And if they read the book, what do you speak of? If they touch it, they get benefited. Because these books are like deities. Therefore, when we're handling these books, we should be careful. We shouldn't just leave them out in the rain, or we just chuck them on the floor, or we leave them piled up in some way and they're going to get damaged. We wouldn't do that with the deities. If you did, then we consider an offence. So we have to take care of these books, take great care of them. If we take great care of them because it's Krishna's words, it's Krishna himself, we value these books so much, and that will help us in our devotional service, and it will also help us to convey to other people how valuable these books are. So Narad is a very expert preacher. There was one time when Daksha, one of the progenitors of mankind, sent his 10,000 sons, called the Haryashvas, to the ashram of Narada Muni. At that time he had an ashram, and he was told to educate them and then send them back so they would be progenitors of mankind. What did Narada Muni do? He preached to them to become devotees, and they were interested in getting involved in household life, and went back to Godhead. So Daksha was very upset, just like sometimes when we come to Krishna consciousness, our parents get upset that they have a plan for us and we're not going according to their plan, so they get a bit frustrated and they get a bit concerned. In due course of time, they realise it's a good thing. But to begin with, sometimes they don't understand. So Daksha also, he was a concerned parent. Where's my children? You sent them all back to Godhead. It's just too religious. Too much religion is not a good thing. But Narad wasn't bothered because his mission was widely working in the material world, go back to Godhead. So then Narada, Daksha sent another 1,000 sons, which were called the no, I don't think so, because there's only 10 of them. So anyway, and Daksha said, okay, this time educate them properly so that we can populate the material world. He says, sure, yeah, just leave them in my care. And he sent them also back to Godhead. And then Daksha cursed Narada Muni. He says, I curse you that you cannot stay in any place for any length of time. So think, I don't know if it was 1 day or 3 days, but This is why Narad Muni is always traveling, just like sometimes we're traveling Sankirtan. And Narada took it as a blessing. He took this curse as a blessing. Says, "Good, now I don't have to stay here in one place. I'll just travel and preach everywhere." Narada Muni Bhajai Vina Radhika Ramana Ratname. Narada Muni is traveling throughout the universe, playing his Veena, which looks like a tambura, and he's singing Radhika Raman, Radhika Ramana, singing the names of Radhika and Ramana, Radha and Krishna. And in this way, he's got so many disciples all over the universe. He is not restricted, because we're restricted as to where we can go, especially with this COVID. There may be some more restrictions coming up. So we take advantage of the time we have to do this highest welfare work. It's a nice verse which is very encouraging for the devotees, because sometimes when we're on Sankirtan or on Harinam, or even just being a devotee, sometimes people can be naysayers, they can be critical, they can be insulting, etc. But we shouldn't let ourselves be discouraged by this, because Prabhupada says that men who are like dogs and hogs do not appreciate the value of this Krishna conscious movement. But members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will continue this valuable work. He likened it just like the camel train in the desert. The camels are in the desert. The camel is king, isn't he? The lion's not the king of the desert; he's the king of the jungle. The desert animals is the camel. So when there's a camel train, then the camels, sometimes some dogs from the villages come out and bark, but the camel doesn't even look at it. It's just like an insect flying past. It doesn't even bother them. It's not like they turn and go, "Oh, that dog's barking at me, I better not go into this village." They just totally ignore it, because they're bigger than that. The dog's barking means nothing to them. The dog's with his little territorial, "This is my land, what are you doing here?" Prabhupada says, just like in the immigration officers are like barking dogs. "Why are you here? What are you doing? Where are you from?" They're just woofing, just barking at me. "This is my land. What business do you have here?" So all this false sense of proprietorship, the countries are setting up their barking dogs at all the borders to keep everybody in check in a certain way. Just like Prabhupada says, this United Nations, there's so many flags under the United Nations, doesn't prove the unity, it proves the disunity that they all have their own individual agendas. And sometimes you can agree on some things for a bit. But the real United Nations is that we accept that God is the supreme proprietor, the supreme controller, and the well-wishing friend of everyone. So Prabhupada said this is a peace formula. When people can come to understand and accept that there is God, and that God is the supreme controller, whether we like it or not. There's so many things out of our control, but there's nothing out of Krishna's control. Everything is under his control. But we don't blame Krishna for anything, because, like, say for example, we suffer something, we think, "Oh, why is Krishna letting me suffer?" It's your choice. You made the choice sometime in the past. We have to take the reaction. But the devotee only gets token reaction, don't get full reaction, because we're under Krishna's care, and the suffering that the devotee goes through is under Krishna's care, so that the devotee learns the exact lessons they need to learn, so they can give up this material world and come back to him. So when a devotee suffers, they're suffering so they become purified and they can learn. And then when we learn from this suffering, when we see other younger, junior, or other people who are depending on us, we see them suffering, then we can give that same lesson. Yeah, I went through that too. But we just keep going. So we have to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. If anything is causing us to forget Krishna, then reject it. This is a principle. Everything we do, from the moment we get up in the morning to the moment we take rest, everything that is there to help us remember Krishna. And what's the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning? Pay your obeisances. Anybody else do something different? Throw the alarm across the room. Start chatting. So we do that. First thing we do is obeisances to the spiritual master. And just have a mantra and then start chanting. So Prabhupada, spiritual master, says that the devotee must beat the mind with a shoe in the morning and with a stick in the evening, which means we never let up on the mind at all at any point in time. And then what happens? We take a bath to wash off the tamas gun, isn't it? Sometimes we're up here in Mangalarti and the body's here, but the mind's maybe still back in the sleeping bag. So we have to drag the mind out as well. And it comes to the point where the mind becomes willing, our mind becomes our friend. It's to improve our Krishna consciousness. Yeah, that's our friend. But if we hang on to the mind and we never make any improvements, never make any changes, even if we hear some good advice and we don't make any changes, then our mind becomes our friend, and then we take a chance of committing offences against devotees when instructors. So when we hear instructions, the way to make advancement is you hear it, you take it to heart and you act upon it. When we act upon those instructions, then the power comes to us. If we think, oh well, I'll try. Try most often than not means I'm not going to do it, but I'm just getting you out of my case. Just keep me off my case. I'll say I try. I don't have much intention to do it. I'm not going to put much effort into that. Now, trying in one sense can also mean that we will try if we make an endeavour. It's just like asking the questions. So the questions, one motivation is we want to know more. Another one is we want to reject something. So this try means if we really try, if we make an endeavour, Krishna will accept that. But if we just say try as lip service and we don't make any endeavour, then that is just cheating. Then we remain in the lower modes. We don't make any improvement. We just think it's all within our power to do this, and I'll do it when I decide to do it. But it's not within our power because we are trapped in the modes. What power do we have? So when Narada Muni received this curse, he took it as a benediction to travel and preach. He was on travelling Sankirtan. He's the longest standing. Sometimes we think, oh, I told Sri Krishna he's done 38 years Sankirtan. And Prabhupada started this movement in 1966, and the devotees have been doing Sankirtan since then. Narada Muni, he's been doing Sankirtan for thousands of years. Millions of years. So we shouldn't become proud of the fact that we've been doing Sankirtan for like 10 days or 10 weeks or 10 years or 20 or 30, 40 years. So we shouldn't become proud of that. The devotee is supposed to become humble. We don't take the practice of Krishna consciousness, which is to help us become humble, eternal servants. We don't take that practice to make us proud. That's the wrong use of it. The practice of Krishna consciousness is there. If we do it properly, then we become humble. We realise that Krishna is actually the doer. Anything which is of some value in my life has come about by the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas and the Supreme Lord. And all the things that you see bad, that's me. That's my doing. Prabhupada said this, that the devotee thinks anything good is by the mercy of the spiritual master and the devotees. Anything good that you see in me. And if you see some faults, that's not the spiritual master's fault, that's my fault. So of course this doesn't mean to say we become full of low self-esteem. Quite the contrary, it means that we become very much feeling more of protected and blessed. Because without the mercy of the spiritual master, the devotees, the Supreme Lord, Guru, Sadhu Shastra, without this mercy, then where were we heading? It was only by when the mercy of the Lord started to introduce itself into our life did our life become something of some value, some consequence. We may have some material value, some material talent, but it doesn't take long for that to go. Just like someone may become famous as a singer, they lose their voice and then they can't perform any longer. How good is it? Within a moment, whatever material ability we have, it could go. And Krishna is the ability. So Krishna, whatever we lack, Krishna will make up for it. It's not that we have to have some ability. For some success in Krishna consciousness, whatever abilities we have, we use it in Krishna service. And whatever we don't have, we do our best to try to do that. And Krishna will make up for it, so it's the endeavour which counts. And if Krishna sees us endeavouring, there will be a result. And nothing, we keep trying to please Krishna, and nothing ever gets any better. It's not like that. Anyone who's ever applied Krishna consciousness will tell you. So Prabhupada finishes the purport here by saying that the Krishna conscious movement, people will take it seriously, it will save them from gliding down to hellish conditions. So just like you see, sometimes you look at the state of the world, the state of the nation, the state of affairs, and you think, oh, there's so many things wrong in the world. And then just when you think it won't get any worse, then Kali Yuga decides to rank up another step. And then you get some crazy person in charge of the country, and you think, oh, it can't get worse than this. Which is almost tempting fate, because then another cloud will come along. And so it comes to the point where people have no faith in anything of authority. So this could be a blessing in disguise, because the only real authority is coming from Krishna. And everyone else is under the influence of the three modes of material nature. And therefore, and because, as you read in the nectar of instruction, first verse, the one who cannot control the senses cannot be trusted. So this is how you can distinguish whether leaders are trustworthy or not. So we see that present day leaders in society, they need to learn to control their senses so that they can invite trust from the general members of the public. But when they're not able to do so, and the fact of the matter is, Krishna says, that there is it's a natural inclination of the people in general to want to follow in the footsteps of great personalities. And you can see this because, say, for example, you get the royal family, and then maybe they do something wrong, and they're in all the newspapers, and everybody's kicking up a fuss, and then people come to their defence, etc. Now, if Joe Sock down 99 Bubble Street does the same thing, nobody bats an eyelid. Just if.
That was my cat's name.
Huh?
That was my first cat's name.
Your cat's name, Joe Sock?
So, yeah.
Did you live in 99 Bubble Street? So that's specifically Joe Sock. So what is this? If a great personality does something wrong, then people expect better of them because they're the natural leaders. But if some regular person does the same thing, then nobody gets a fuss over it. Just like if a member of the royal family wants to get a divorce, then there's a whole uproar. The people getting divorced every time, every day's life, and it's not in the newspapers. So that is proving that they expect a certain type of behaviour out of the leaders in society. And the leaders in society are actually supposed to be Raja Rishis. Raja, king, Rishi, saintly, meant to be saintly kings. They're meant to be living a life of example of devotion and austerity, purity, etc. If you read in the Shastras, the recommended schedule for being an actual Rajrishi or a great saintly king, they hardly sleep, they spend so much time in sadhana, and their life is very, very much regulated, and their life is not their own. So not everyone can do that. But here in Kali Yuga, because everyone is Sudra or less, that means that those who are in control of the country or the heads of the country are actually Sudra or less. So it's just, you can imagine the legs trying to take control of the body. See, if you're deaf, dumb, blind, and mute, and you've no sense of balance, and all you've got left is your legs, it's just going to be chaos. Nothing but chaos. The blind leading the blind into a ditch. So regarding false leaders, Prabhupada was talking about this also. It says that those who are bogus leaders then are those who are acting in the name of leaders but are not actually leaders. Then they're bogus, and those who follow them are even more bogus because they're put in that position. This was in reference to one reporter was asking Prabhupada about someone's one. He said, "Oh, he's a nonsense. He's bogus." He said, "Oh, what about this one?" He said, "He's another nonsense." Mm-hmm. So Prabhupada was, he wasn't part of the old boys club, the old Swami's boys club. He would speak the truth. And then he said, "Oh, because my son's one of his followers," and he said, "and those who follow him are even more bogus." So he didn't let him off the hook either. You just never know what's going to come out of Prabhupada. This is the opulence of the liberated soul. But it's not that he's just creating a stir. He's speaking with great knowledge and gravity and depth and compassion. It's if there's nobody to follow these, if blind followers are not following blind leaders, then there's no blind leaders. So if people have got the strength to not be simply following the senses, therefore following the leaders who are following the senses, because the leaders are saying, "Okay, we'll tax you to the max, but never mind, you can still get your booze and cigarettes, that's okay as long as you get that, and your little flutter on the horses, or your bingo, or whatever else their little puny sense gratification happens to be." And because the people don't have anything other than that, any higher knowledge, then they may be disgruntled, but as long as they get the really things they need, their tea, coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, things like that, then we carry on begrudgingly. But if everyone was to say, "Okay, from tomorrow there'll be no tea, coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, wheat, gambling," then how much rioting would there be? But because the leaders don't have the guts to do such a thing, and because they don't even have the knowledge or the awareness that these things are good for the living entities, they're meant to benefit the people, and they're not benefiting, they benefit themselves. And so this is selfish leaders will simply create selfish followers. But this Krishna conscious movement here, and particularly this verse, is so relevant because we're in a big distribution from just doing this Parapakar, giving the highest welfare work to the living entities. This attracts the mercy of the Lord, and very quickly we become also free from our material desires, which we are somewhat imprisoned by. And very quickly we also learn how to love Krishna. So this, particularly this Sankirtan activity, it's that engagement is completely surrendered to the Lord. It's not you can't really have some motivation to continue with this because there's so many tests in this devotional service in the fast lane, you make rapid advancement by this surrender. Of course, that doesn't mean to say we become proud and think, "Oh, I'm Sankirtan devotee and you're just a scrubber, you're just a temple scrubber, or you're just a cook, or you're just a pujari." The devotee is never proud of if they become advanced by the service, they don't become more proud, they become more humble. And sometimes when the devotee becomes more proud, then this is an opportunity for Krishna to curb that pride. Krishna's He's attracted by the devotion, by the selfless surrender of the devotees. Even the topmost devotees, if they become a little proud, even the gopis, Krishna would leave them in the rasa dance. If one was thinking, oh, Krishna's only dancing with me, they must think that they're special, and Krishna leaves that person, and then there's some separation. So sometimes that happens at a lost crowd, and now I actually have to be humble. This is the real will of the devotee. So Sankirtan, service in general, but particularly Sankirtan gives us an opportunity to become a humble servant, depending on the Lord's protection and depending on the association of devotees to keep us strong. We put ourselves in a vulnerable position, and when we do that, Krishna comes to our aid. It's not an easy thing to do, to put yourself in a vulnerable position for Krishna's name, but he won't let you down. We just call on. Do anyone get any questions or comments? Srimad ki, Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Sri Prabhupada Prana Prabhu ki.